Hi, I'm going to show you how to make quilted Christmas ornaments using styrofoam balls and fabric. The supplies that you need to make this ornament is one 3-inch styrofoam ball and 3 different types of fabric, each cut 3-inch by 3-inch square. For the first layer, you'll need 8 pieces of fabric. For the second and third layer, you'll need 16 pieces of each, and you need tons of straight pins. So to start, I'm going to take my first fabric, and I'm going to find the center point by folding it in half and then folding it in half the opposite direction so I can find the center. And then open it up and put a straight pin in it. And to start, it doesn't matter where you go in the styrofoam ball, just anywhere. And I'm going to fold it in half and then bring down the corners straight from the center pin and pin that in place. And also on this side, so that it makes a triangle. And then I'm going to also pin down these corner pieces on both sides. I'm going to do the same thing directly opposite of that, always starting from the same center point. So again, I'm going to find the center piece of this piece of fabric, put the pin in the same spot that I started with, and again fold it in half, and then I'm going to go in the opposite direction of the first triangle, again pinning down all of the corners. I'm going to do the same thing now on these two opposing sides. This is what the first layer looks like when it's complete. For the second layer, I'm using a red gingham material, and I'm going to follow one piece of fabric down the center seam about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. That looks good. And then I'm going to do the same thing, fold the fabric in half, and then bring the triangles down, and I'm going to keep the same seam line all the way down the entire ornament. So that's the first piece. I'm going to do the same thing on all 4 pieces of fabric. This is what the second layer looks like when it's complete. It has all 8 points of the star. For the third layer, you can expose however much you want to of the second layer. I like to have just a little bit of it showing, maybe like 1/4 inch, just because I like to have just the outline of the star. So there are 4 pieces of fabric on the second layer that are lower than the other 4 pieces, so that's where I start on the third layer as well. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. This time I have a blue floral fabric. I'm going to do the exact same thing on top of all 8 pieces of the second layer. Here's what it looks like when you're halfway through. The first side of the ornament is completely done, and we need to do the same thing on the opposite side. The easiest way to find the center point is just to put a pin in the blank side and then move the ornament around to see if that looks about right, if it's even from all angles. It does not have to be perfect because we're going to cover this seam up with some fabric later anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing I did on this side on the blank side. Now that the ornament is complete with all of the fabric pieces, we still have this raw edge in the middle that needs to be covered up. So what I'm going to do is take some of the fabric, in this case I'm taking the red gingham fabric, and we're just going to cover those up. Now with the fabric, I went ahead and folded it in thirds so that I could keep all the raw edges on the inside, and then I just ironed it. So I'm going to take this material, place it over the raw edges of the ornament, and pin it in place. And then I'm going to follow all of the pins and make sure that I have them all covered up the entire way around so that it looks finished. And then on the edge I just fold over the end piece so that again it has a finished look to it. And then also pin this down. You could just leave it like this, but I kind of like to have it a little fancier, so I take some decorative ribbon and I hot glue it down. You could pin it, but I don't know, the hot glue just makes it stay a little bit better and then you don't have the pin exposed. So you would just wrap it around like this and hot glue it, and there you have your completed quilted Christmas ornament.